Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Today's episode is Dr. Fauzia Khan, wonderful dentist, professional, personal, and I call her a friend now. Just a great story of how she started, has 5 children, centers her life there, works as an associate, finds it's not where she wants to be, starts up her own practice from zero, scratch, in an area that she's familiar with and comfortable in, and how she's taken that and grown that, and how it really is a reflection of herself. But her advice and her alignment with her personal goals and her professional goals are so spot on. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Please click like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, please reach out to me, sonnyspera@gmail.com or independentdentalpractice@gmail.com. Or you can text or call my cell phone, 607-624-2962. Enjoy the show, folks. Thank you very much.
Dr. Fauzia Khan, her journey into practice ownership, a discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice, Dr. Sonny Spera. Today, my guest, Dr. Fauzia Khan. I met her in person, live, at the DIGRN Bob D's event in Chicago. And lovely woman, great professional. I'm excited to talk to her. I was happy that she volunteered to come on and share her journey and her experiences as a female dental owner. She went to the University of Chicago. And then she went to dental school at Northwestern University of Chicago. So we can't get her out of Chicago. That's the first fact we have to know about. She is the proud owner of Lake Bluff Family Dentistry, where she combines clinical excellence with a heartfelt commitment to creating an exceptional patient experience. Known for her gentle approach and warm demeanor, she believes every patient deserves to feel comfortable, heard, and genuinely cared for. As both a dedicated dentist and a devoted mom, Dr. Khan has mastered the art of balancing a fulfilling family life with a thriving dental career, which I think is one of the biggest challenges for a female owner. And she's raised her children while continuing to grow professionally. So we're going to focus a little bit on that for sure. Staying at the forefront of modern dentistry through continuous learning and deep-rooted passion for the craft. She has completed the SPEAR education curriculum and earned a RIPE Global Fellowship in Restorative Dentist. Today, she gives back to the profession by serving as an educator with RIPE Global, helping to mentor and inspire other dentists around the world. Whether she's restoring a smile or comforting a nervous patient, she leads with compassion, precision, and a genuine desire to make dentistry a positive experience for every person who walks through her doors. So, folks, please welcome Dr. Khan. Fauzia, how are you?
Good, Sonny. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm excited to get it done. Tell us the environment you grew up in. What mom and dad do? What was your family like? Fill us in on that.
Yeah. So I grew up actually in Lake Bluff, Illinois. So I'm practicing where I grew up.
Home.
And yeah, exactly. My father is a physician, so he's a urologist. He came from Pakistan in 1968. My mother is from the upstate New York area, and she was a surgical nurse.
A lot to be said about upstate New York.
I know, that's what she says. I haven't been there enough, but that's what she says. And I'm the eldest of 5 as well, so I've got tons of brothers and sisters. But from an early age, education was always a really big deal. And obviously healthcare was always a big deal. It was always pushed in our family. It was modeled in my family. So that's how I ended up coming.
What's your siblings going to?
2 of them are physicians. One of them is a PhD in math, and the other one is in library science.
Okay. So education, obviously important.
Yep.
So
yes,
I have to
education is
ask
definitely
you, with your dad's background, right?
Yeah.
Does he have an independent medical practice, or does he work under something else?
He has an independent medical practice. He works out of a couple different hospitals, but he owns his practice. He's still working. He's almost 80 years old. So I also have a good model to keep me in the business for a little while as well.
The reason I ask is because a parent is in a position like your dad and they work for someone, and they actually are very encouraging of their children to not work for companies like that. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I think it's important. The ownership component is such an important missing component in a lot of graduating female dentists.
If you ask me, like, where did the idea of ownership come in my mind? It was definitely instilled from conversations that I probably had with him growing up. Because I knew when I was in dental school 20 some years ago, I did know that I wanted to own at some point. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew that was definitely going to be in my cards.
Well, so let me ask you a question specifically related to that.
Yeah,
Was
sure.
there a moment, like a seminal moment of epiphany, that you said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this"?
Yeah, 100%. So what happened was I used to work in a private practice, and I think I was there like one because at the time I have 5 children. So at the time I had lots of schedules to balance. So I
Yeah.
told them, I said, listen, I can either work one really long day or I can work maybe 2 half days, like 2 shorter days. They wanted the one long day. So I worked there and I was probably in there about 3 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years. And I wanted to add another day. I had been starting to up my continuing education and
Right.
I wanted to have another day. And they were like, you know what? No, we have another dental associate there. I just was like a cog in the wheel and I didn't quite fit. And I remember specifically sitting in the office talking to one of the doctors and saying, you know what? Maybe I'll just start my own practice. And she looked at me and said, "That's a lot of work." And I
Mhm.
said, "Yeah, I know." And so I uttered those words, but I had no idea what the doors were going to open for me. I had no idea exactly what to do, but I just said it. And it was like one of those Disney movies where you say something, and then my ears started hearing different things. And I started to meet people and I would ask one question that would lead to another question. The reason behind that moment was that I was doing a lot of continuing education. At the time, I was very heavily involved with spear education,
Uh-huh.
and I felt like I was learning things and I was able to treatment plan patients, but I really started to have this desire to like really emphasize the patient experience, but then also clinically take the patient through the entire treatment from the actual planning, the diagnosing, all the way until that last crown or implant was put in.
Like you said, you saw and heard. I'm so glad you articulated that beautifully, by the way. So it's very
Yeah.
easy
Oh,
to
thank
understand.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
and not everybody will see the Disney stars when something like that happens, but you have to realize that although in your environment you can see that okay that there may be some subtle things coming from dad or mom that hey be your own boss. My dad thoroughly told me you want to be your own boss, your hands on
yeah.
the you go down the toilet, your hands on the plunger, the whole thing, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because he had worked and he'd been in the military and then he worked for IBM and he said no matter what
Yeah.
I do, it may not be good enough if it's not what the other person wants. You
Correct.
can be a little better controlling your own destiny. Now, it still took me a bit, a 2-year associate. I wanted to buy a practice, become a partner that way. And then they said no. And then I said, oh, it's time. And then I
Yeah.
remember all the fears came in, all the things that
Oh,
the doubts and but
yeah.
talk a little bit about what you felt because it's important to understand, I think, the whole feeling.
I think the first thing is that there are so many decisions to make. Like, you definitely have these feelings of doubt, and then you have to flip it over where when you're meeting with people and you're talking to people, you sound confident. And that inner confidence, because it's there, you just have to find it and your voice has to project it. And then you're going to work into that. I always worked with supplies, with equipment that other people had for me. I used a gentleman to help me build everything out. And he asked me, what kind of delivery do you want? And I was like, can you explain that? And he said, well, do you want side delivery over the patient? Do you want rear delivery? I had never even thought of that stuff before. So there's a lot of decisions. I think once you utter those words, your
Yeah.
confidence is in there and your voice has to just project it, even though it's
Yeah,
scary.
I remember for me it was going to the bank, doing the processing, presenting it, making it
Yeah.
attractive for them to want to loan me the money, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When you did decide, and then you're still working in that position, did you start to look at is it rear delivery? Is it over the patient delivery? Is it curing lights cordless? Is it curing lights this way? What about the operatory light or hand pieces? Is it electric? Is it air driven? Did you start to look at those things?
I started to look at them a lot.
Mhm.
Definitely big things like chairs, deliveries, and everything. But I didn't stay in that position for a whole lot. I didn't stay there for much longer. I was actually pretty driven that I the timing wasn't right. So I was working at another office where I knew things, it was a little bit more of like Lake County Health Departments. I was looking at things, but I also knew that they didn't have electric handpieces. But I did start looking at materials a little bit more. I started thinking about communication a little bit more as well, because no matter where or how you treat a patient, communication is still really a big piece of it. So I did pay attention to those things. I definitely talked to people about it. Many people were very excited for me, especially a lot of people in the dental community were very excited for me. But I did have a lot of naysayers. I had been out of school for almost, let's see, probably 19 years. Had raised my children. My husband was pretty established. And I had a lot of people that said, "You're going to do what? You don't need to do that." And so those words were a little hurtful to me in the beginning. And they were little stumbling blocks because you do take into account what everybody says. And I had to block those voices out.
Okay, so how did you handle all these questions and all these things that were coming up?
I stayed away from some of the people that were naysaying me.
Yeah.
They weren't like close friends. Most of the people that were close to me were very excited for me because they could really feel my passion and they could feel my excitement and any free moment, even my family, my kids, my husband, like any free moment I would get, I was researching equipment. I was thinking about the floor, the layout of my office because I did a complete build out. And I actually decided to start from scratch. So I found a space.
God,
I did a
I wonder
build.
if you were going there. Good for you.
Yep,
Good for you.
I found a space which took me almost like 9 months to find. And then I did a build out and then I opened my doors, but when I opened my doors I had 0 patients.
Okay, yeah, that's a startup, right?
Yeah, it was a startup.
So how about the floor plan of the office and the purchase? Let's talk about the next step is you got to find a location. And at
Yes.
what point did you decide I'm not going to buy something, I'm going to start from scratch?
So I knew pretty early on that I was going to start from scratch.
Okay. What
Around
was
my
the year?
area, it was 2017.
2017. All right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So there wasn't a whole lot for sale. I also knew that I wanted to be part of the community. So I knew that I wanted to be in like the Lake Bluff, Lake Forest area.
Sure.
And there wasn't a lot for sale as far as practices. There wasn't a lot for sale as far as real estate, but I knew that I wanted to be there. So I just kept trying to make it happen. I did find a dental specific builder who he came to me to a lot of the showings of the rental spaces because he had an eye because what I was going after was patient focused. So even design that I made for the practice, it's with the patient flow in mind. And so he would help me look at all of these things. And then finally, I just went to one that seemed like it felt right. But that was almost 8, 9 months later and signed for that. And
On a lease?
yep, I always use an attorney. So I had an attorney help me negotiate out. I think I did a 15-year lease, but 5-year arms.
So 3 5-year
And
leases?
3 5-year leases,
Okay.
exactly. And then we started construction.
What did the space look like, square footage?
So the square footage is about 2,500,
Okay. And you had this
and
patient flow in mind, you said, right?
I had this patient flow in mind. So I actually I'm a little bit, what a lot of marketers would feel, I'm a little bit in an industrial area, but I tell people I'm a destination dentist. So they find me. I have a good digital presence. We have landmarks in town. So people find us. They're not going to walk by and find me. Although we do get some walk-ins because there are some medical offices near me as well. But it's for all practical purposes, it was almost like 2 warehouse units. Okay. Really high ceilings.
Love that.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rectangular in size. And I walked in and I just thought, you know what? I really like this place.
Okay. All right. So that meets your needs. What did it look like from a financial aspect? What did you have to borrow? Or what did you have to pay?
So I borrowed about 500, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I really did stay pretty much within that.
So that for that 500, that was just for your leasehold improvements and equipment to operate?
Yes. I also worked really hard to keep my costs reasonable. I wanted to be able to manage everything myself.
Sure.
That was also really important to me. I have family members that I could have said, "Hey, I need some money," but I really felt the responsibility of me jumping into this and wanting to actually cover everything myself. So I think I just took out maybe like another 20 just to cover some of my initial startup costs.
Yeah, so I was going to
Um,
ask you, like your operating expenses, right?
yeah, so
Because you're going to
operating
have to
expenses,
market and do some things in the beginning, right?
exactly, exactly.
Most
So
people
I
under
think
borrow. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
I might have underborrowed, but I also really worked to work within what I had as well. But the build out was done. It was a lot.
Okay, so
But
now I got to ask you that this is a question. I don't know if you know this answer. So you're open your first month or two. Do you know what your BAM, your bare ass minimum was that you had to make to meet all your?
no, I had a feeling,
Mhm.
but no. But when I started, I had decided to go. I obviously did my own hygiene, and then I decided to hire a dental assistant front desk person because there was really nobody coming in.
Sure,
I also, at the time, I one of my other goals was to open it fee for service.
sure.
So that was another challenge because I didn't
Yeah.
have insurance companies feeding me people. Luckily, between being part of the community, I play a lot of tennis. So I have a tennis group, a tennis club that we go to. So that fed me a lot of people. I think a lot of people, when they heard that I was opening, at the time I don't think I was the only female dentist in my actual area, but
Right.
there's not a lot. And I think a lot of people wanted to come and see me. So right off the bat, I got like old teachers, old
Mhm.
classmates from growing up that would find me. Obviously, my father would talk about me in the doctor community. So I did get some of the physician group right away as well.
How
So
long, how long did it take from the time that you signed the lease to the time you got in? How much was construction? 3 months?
about 6 months.
6?
Wait, November. I signed in November. They started in December. I got it in June. Yeah. So probably
7 months.
about five to 6 months. Yeah.
You signed in November, you said?
I signed it in November just before Thanksgiving.
So
We
November,
started
so
construction in
7 months.
December. Yeah. Yep.
So you're paying rent for six, people understand that you're paying rent for 6 months without being open.
So
What did you
yeah.
do? Start to market the practice? Did you create Facebook groups? Did you reach in the community?
Yeah.
What were some
Yeah.
things that because you don't really have the start date, but as it gets closer,
Right.
you're going to get closer to an
Right.
answer. What did you do
But
to?
Sunny, yeah, Sunny, I think it's also really important for people to remember that obviously, if you ever do something like this, you need to have an attorney look at all of these things.
Yeah.
You usually can get money for improvements. So don't forget that. I was
In
actually
lease.
in
So
the
you
lease.
shared some leasehold improvements.
So I was actually not paying rent. I think I got 6 months in there to not pay rent.
Okay,
So that was actually
that's good.
yeah, that was a huge piece of that. And I might not have known that, or I might not have been so I was been asking for that if I didn't have a real estate specific attorney helping me. So I think that's good to remember too. So I actually wasn't paying rent.
They have an allotment for
They
leasehold improvements?
they did. They
Okay,
had an allotment. Maybe it was like a rent. I just didn't pay rent for 6 months. And then I
that
think
was
there
it.
was
Like
just
they didn't.
and there was not a whole lot else. He did a
Okay,
couple other improvements for me, but I also was looking for a place that I was not going to be burdened too much by the lease.
okay.
If that makes sense.
Now, did you have a
Yeah.
basement?
Did not have a basement.
Okay, so you got that plumbing has got to be a challenge around.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was like concrete floors and
Yeah.
everything. So the plumbing was probably one of the most expensive things to do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I plumbed for 5 ops and I built out at the time 3 ops to get started. And then you asked about marketing. I did do a lot of marketing. I hired a company to help me, but again, when you're new, you're supposed to go big, but everything has to be big for you and not big for maybe what somebody else's budget
Sure.
would be. So I did have a company that helped me. Actually, my cousin helped me make my website. I loved that website. It was great. And we did some Google ads. We did some like on the ground marketing and got around in the community and asked for internal referrals. And then our Google reviews started taking off. And I tried some of the Facebook advertising. To this day, Facebook advertising in my area, it works to keep you relevant, but I've tracked it and it's not like I get a ton of patients from Facebook. So I didn't do a whole lot with social media. Now I had a couple open houses.
Sure.
So I had an open house for all the local like
Smart.
dentists and specialists. But the one thing that really helped me was in May. So I opened in June. So like about 6 months later, I had this like women's wellness open house, I think. And what I did was I took a lot of the ladies in town that have other businesses. There are some other wellness, they're not physicians or doctors, but they're definitely have some wellness ideas, and they do some, massage therapy. There was like a jewelry making lady, there was a flower lady, but these were like key people in the community that like support each other's little local businesses.
Sure.
So ended up hiring somebody else in town who does some party planning and everything. She was a friend of mine. So I included her, and we had about 20 ladies that came, and we marketed it, and we had a lot of the community that came to visit the office and use my space. So it was a very collaborative thing. And that was probably one of the best things that I did.
Do you know what the cost of setting up just one operatory would be if you added
Oof.
4? Or give me a ballpark, give me a round number. To 20 grand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just in relative terms, right? You're setting up 3 rooms,
Yeah.
ballpark, 60 or 70 grand
Uh-huh.
just for those rooms. You got your compressor, you got your suction, you got all your cabinetry and stuff
Yep.
like that. So, it adds up. The numbers add up. You got walls you
Good.
got to put in, X-ray equipment,
Yep. Yep. You've
safety.
got cabinetry. The numbers definitely add up.
What were some things that you really had to have to practice the way you wanted to practice? What were some like 3 absolutes I gotta have? Electric handpiece, CBCT.
Yeah.
What were they?
Electric handpiece. I needed to have, I got a pan. I thought about a CBCT, but I didn't. So I got
Okay.
a pan, which I really liked. And
Like a consultation room or
yes,
something
so
in the design
yes,
that you needed, you wouldn't practice without it.
yes. At that time, I needed the consultation room. I
'Cause
practice a little differently now than I did then, but yes, the consultation room was a big thing.
Okay, so looking back now, because this is the one thing that I tell everybody, and I think it's so important. Think about what you're doing now, but you won't know what
Yeah,
you're doing in 5 or 10 years.
yeah.
Whatever you do, think adaptability.
Hmm.
So what have you seen change? Okay, you got scanners, they're on carts. Where you put in the carts? You don't really have the storage.
Yep,
Do you have enough storage for supplies yet? Other equipment. So you're doing endo, you got a handpiece, is that on a different cart? Some of those things require some adaptation, right?
yep,
So what were
yep.
some things that looking back now that you've seen that you've changed?
Yeah, one of the things that I wish that I would have done differently is my entrance area and my reception area, my front desk is actually quite large. Sometimes I look at my front desk and I think I could have gotten a whole nother operatory in there. So I think that what has changed, especially with COVID and a lot of our ways, like we have patients fill out paperwork before they even get there. So there's not a whole lot of sitting in my office. So I would definitely have made the reception area a little bit smaller. The front desk, I don't need 2, 3 people sitting there. That's why I would have made that smaller. Outlets, I would definitely have looked at the electrical plan a little bit better. My outlets are pretty good, but there are some, especially in the working places, like on my working counter where we're doing computer work, it's like there's one outlet here, but there's nothing down the, so outlets I would definitely look at. What else has changed? I made my treatment rooms, I wish, were just a little bit bigger
Okay.
because I do now have, I didn't place implants at the time. Now I place implants, so I have an implant cart, but that's probably about it. The guy that helped me build my space and design my space really had a good eye for growth and also for all the patient movement and the doctor movement while also maximizing the dollar.
Did you
So
design each operatory the same size?
yeah, I did.
Okay. There's a
I
lot to be
did.
said for that. There's a universality, yeah, so that you could work in any room, and if you have a hygienist, they can work in any room, so
Yeah.
that there isn't. And now I hear some people, I wanted a surgical suite.
Yes.
There's some differences now. I
Yeah.
wanted a room that was maybe a little more soundproofed.
So I do have one of those. I do have one of my treatment rooms. I purposely put doors on and I tucked it away a little bit. But that was really because I used to treat a lot of children. And so I thought,
Mhm.
oh, if I've got children and they're crying, they could go in there.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I schedule children a little bit differently because I can't have a new fee for service patient sitting in one treatment room and then a crying kid next door.
Right.
So I just get them to come in at different times. So that room is actually in the process of being built out. So I have not filled all 5 of them yet.
Okay. So you're doing room 4 right
So
now? Okay. Yeah, we had that. We had a pediatric dentist who was in our practice, so we ended up creating two rooms in a couple of the offices that are sound
yeah,
deadened. And if you
yeah.
stand outside the door and the door's shut, they're only rooms with doors on them. Okay, so in your flow, and all right, talk about what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as an owner in your first few years?
Yeah. Patient numbers were definitely huge. And just the monthly, what was coming in monthly. In reality, financially, I didn't pay myself for a little while. And a little while was probably longer than what I wanted. Like
Uh-huh.
it was a while. So I had that luxury that a lot of my home expenses were being taken care of. And so I really just had to cover the practice. And if I didn't have those, I probably would have worked someplace else in the process. But you put a lot of work into it day to day, and you don't you get rewarded because you feel like you've created something and you're doing what you want to do. But financially, it takes a while to pay yourself back.
So
I mean,
do you have an idea
yeah,
what you needed to
yeah,
make just to make ends meet?
yeah, I did. Every month I needed to make, oh, luckily for me in the beginning, I probably only needed to make about $12,000 to make ends meet. But that was also without paying myself a lot.
But even
So
with
I
your
really,
note and everything, like with your loan and all that?
it was a little bit more than that. It was a little bit more, but it was like 15. I really kept my costs, like my rent. I really
Yeah.
kept everything. I do central sterilization, so I don't have a ton of supplies
Mhm.
everywhere. Even today, like I order supplies as we need. I
Sure.
keep a little in the backup. So yeah, my numbers were, it was a good time.
Okay. Because I think that's when, reality is. So
It
now,
definitely,
well, I've
reality
got to ask you
hits.
about the fee for service. Did you ever really doubt and question that and say, boy, I might have to join insurance plan?
Yeah, I did. I did. From the get-go, I was really gung-ho about it. Many of the dentists that I had met, that's the model that they use. So I thought, well, they can do it, I can do it. But there were many months, especially within, I mean, probably that even creeps into your mind very recently, even. But definitely in the beginning, I think in the first year and a half, I knew that in my back pocket, I'm like, I could always join a couple plans and my chairs would get filled. And every time I tried to think about doing that, I would read my vision, and my vision would just take me right back to keeping it fee for service.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Now, I'm a huge proponent of being on a network. So now let's talk help mentors outside influences.
Yeah.
Where did you get yours? Did you get yours? Who did you rely on? So who did you pick up the phone and call when you started to have those questions?
Oh my gosh. I was using a consultant. So I did spend money to hire a consultant
Okay.
because I didn't really know what to do. I also did not want to really change my home life too much. I didn't want my kids and my family to feel like this is all I was doing, even though it was all I was doing. So I did hire a consultant to help me. And I think they helped me a lot in the mindset, a lot in the let's stick through it.
Yeah.
And I would. So that was one person I would call. I also had a study club nearby. So I had some dentists that were in my age group that I would call and I would just be like, listen, what can I do? And they would give me some suggestions about marketing companies, about even just the language and the communication. How do you ask for an internal referral? How do you do, what are some of the extra niceties that you can do that people can understand? And then the other piece that you have to remember is that there's a clinical side to it. So now all of a sudden, yeah, you own a practice and you're a practice owner. And so you've got the financial part that is can be very difficult to get through. But then you've got the clinical part that now all of a sudden you are the only dentist in the practice. You don't have anyone else to consult with, right? You really have to have your clinical mentors in place as well. And luckily, some of my clinical mentors were also not contracted with insurances. They had been in the game for a long time, and so they were able to help me with the nuts and bolts of how to put it all together. I don't think anyone ever convinced me to stay fee for service. I don't think anyone encouraged me to start taking plans either. But I just kept seeing that everybody was doing this, and I thought, you know what? It was like a puzzle, Sonny. It was always trying to figure out the pieces, right? This is what I need. How can I make this happen?
I
You
think,
just ask the right
yeah,
questions and you get there.
I think the right people, what they're going to do is make you more introspective to yourself. And then, just like you
Exactly.
said, and very clearly, I went back to my vision, which I'm very glad you wrote down and used. because
Yeah.
so many people write it down, put it on the wall, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's just something that they put down and they think it makes or helps them. When you
Yeah.
do it and it comes from the fiber of your being, you can't. People talk about alignment. It's when you get out of alignment, when you get away from that, that you're going to
Yeah.
then deal with an internal turmoil.
Yep.
That internal turmoil, there's nobody that can help you with that. You got to fix it.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to hear that the consultant didn't cookie cut you.
Yeah. No.
Didn't say, oh, you know what, everybody else, you just got to join the plan. This is what happens, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do that. So that's good to hear that
Yeah.
and probably they got to know you well, and that they wanted you to stay true to your inner self,
That's
especially
exactly
when the
right.
doubts creep in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Good
That's
for you.
exactly
You had
right.
good people around you. That's it. I fully believe, even to this day, myself and my practice, I've been at it, this is my 36th year, that I have
Wow.
people that I still look forward to talking to, seeing, asking things or learning from. A buddy of mine in New York, I went to see,
Yeah.
I was down there to see my cousin. I was like, hey, Richie's office is nearby. Let me go see Richie. I went to see him for the half a day, and I came home with, hey, here's a great idea to bring our composites to the rooms. We won't have to stock them up. We don't have to put them on the cart. We can put them here. You can have a central,
Hmm.
and it just changed a few things. And I was like, yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
it's the beauty of it. And you're a lifelong learner. You've clearly
Yeah.
said that. And there's so many things to learn. And I
Yeah.
look back
Yeah.
on my mentors and people very fondly. I couldn't do it without it. Now,
No.
you have an audience of 50 recently graduated to 5 years out in practice. What's your advice to them in terms of how they can maybe steer their own ship or maybe have a little more control of their own destiny or become owners? What's your advice to that group of people?
Yeah. So I firmly believe that it comes from that within. And I think that everybody should write a vision. Like, even if you're an associate, whoever you are, you need to have a vision because
So
there
vision, your personal vision.
can be a personal. So I have a professional vision, which is more my practice type of thing. But then I have a personal vision and a professional vision for myself.
Yeah,
So I
because you
think when you,
said it. You said your family, this is going to
Mhm.
be my priority, and then this will not impact that. So you're staying aligned.
Yeah, yeah,
So you have a personal professional, a personal, and then you have an office.
exactly,
I mean, I love
exactly.
it. Tell me
You,
more.
you have to, because there are just too many decisions that need to be made, and we all know that there's something that exists, the decision fatigue. So once you get into some sort of decision fatigue, you just can't make sense of anything, and you get into that analysis paralysis area. Not to be
Yep.
cliche about it, not to be cliche about anything, but if you have a vision that you either write yourself or you have a personal coach help you write, helps listen to you and is a sounding board for you, that is going to help you. Because what we were talking about in the beginning, there was something inside of me that knew I wanted to be a practice owner, but I didn't know exactly where that was.
Sure.
And so I think having a vision, even if you're a student, even if you're just graduating, of where you want to go, because you really, as a dentist, are going to have so many opportunities and you have so many blessings that you are going to be able to make decisions that you get to create your own life. So have a vision that's going to help you steer that. That's my first thing.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's you don't need just a vision to get a bank loan. Just have a vision for yourself. And then after that, the other thing I would say is that get really good at everyday dentistry. Like, get really good at your fillings, at your crowns, get really good at that foundational stuff, get into quadrant dentistry. You will get to the full mouth rehabs. You will get to the all on X's. You will get to all those big procedures. But when you're out within the first 7, 8 years, get really good at those foundational procedures, because then your communication is going to become better. The thing is that when you're new and you're learning and you're uncomfortable with a procedure, your communication to that patient is also going to be a little uncomfortable because you don't really know. Yeah, you need a crown. I think you need a crown. So get really good at those procedures. And then your communication is going to follow your procedures. So that third piece is work on your communication skills. Be empathetic, think from a patient's point of view, and just always be looking for people that are going to help mentor you, not just mentor you to make a lot of money, because the money is going to come. Find a mentor that's going to help you develop your skills, develop your communication, and be a really good human being in your practice. Because if you're not fun to work with, your staff is not, your team is not going to stay with you, your patients aren't going to stay with you. They're going to see all of that. So I think I probably gave a lot
No,
of
I think that was really well thought out. And the part that really sticks with me now for what you said is not only is there things, but there's an order. Like you said,
yeah,
you get your clinical house in order for yourself. So again, that's part one, too. Get yourself in order, get yourself mentally in order, get your
right,
clinical skills in order, which to me fortifies the self. And now you're a better person to be able to deliver and communicate to the patient. Because when you explain to someone they need a crown and it's
yeah,
2025, it's a whole lot different than 2015, Dr.
yeah,
Khan talking
right,
about needing a crown, right?
yep,
So
100%.
the communication part, if anything, so many dentists, we can all improve on our communication. And
Yeah,
that's something that I
mhm,
try to work with our docs and our younger docs in our office. That here's
yep,
how we present it. So there's
yep,
times, and she talks about it a lot. Dr. Rahman, who works with me on Tuesdays, she said, I'll stop by and put my ear there and just to listen.
yeah,
And that's what I tried to do when I was an associate with the two
yeah,
docs I work with. I just wanted to
yeah,
hear how the back and forth went. How do you
right,
handle the
right,
question?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So if a person, and yeah, I was always told that when a person gets up in your grill and they're like, why do I need this? You have to have a comfortable answer. Or why does it cost so much? You have to have an
mm,
answer
yeah,
that at the ready, that's organic,
yep,
means something to you, and communicates to the patient. Because I
absolutely.
think they're just testing your moxie or your backbone.
I always tell my team I think that what patients say is a reflection of their fear, their not understanding, their anxiety or something. So you almost have to treat it like somebody that doesn't know, and you just have to help them maybe understand better. You have to help them understand, you have to find out what piece they're missing to help them understand and feel more comfortable.
Say that sentence again. You have to help them find.
Yeah, you have to help them find the piece to better understand. You know,
That's so important.
yeah,
That is the crux of
yeah,
almost everything we do every day.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's all psychology. That is actually the most fun part of that dentistry. There is something that is behind everybody's eyes, and you just have to figure out what it is and get to it and connect with them.
Beautiful. I'm going to end
Yeah.
the show there. That was perfect. That's the crux of it. So thank you so much. Now, if people want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. If anybody wants to contact me, my website is lakebluffamilydentistry.com. My email is Fauzia Khan at me.com, and
at
the office
me, at
at
me.
me at me.com.
Okay.
And the office number is 847-604-4012. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram as well. And one of my primary things is to connect with younger dentists. Just remain hopeful. It's a great profession. And thank you so much for having me, Sonny.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.